and welcome to Newsround, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. First of all, let's have the headlines. After a 12-hour marathon judgment, Presidential Election Petition Court delivers its verdict, dismisses petitions of the APM, Labour Party and PDP, and affirms President Bola Tinubu's victory. Nigeria Labour Congress embarks on a two-day warning strike in protest against federal government's recent economic policy. The long-awaited Lagos Blue Line Rail project begins operations, and Governor Sanwo-Olu takes first ride. Plus, horror as Rwandan police arrest 34-year-old suspected serial killer. Let's have the stories now. After 4 months of legal fireworks, the Presidential Election Petition Court has affirmed the return of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the duly elected president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In a judgment that lasted over 12 hours, the five-man panel of justices, led by Justice Haruna Asamani, dismissed all the petitions filed against President Tinubu's victory in the February 25th election by the Allied People's Movement, Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party.
The long-awaited Presidential Election Petition Court's judgment is here, and as expected, the courtroom is a flurry of activities. Vice President Kashim Shettima, the APC National Chairman, Mr. Abdullahi Ganduje, the Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, and the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, are all present to witness the judgment. Others are the governors of Kogi, Imo, Nasarawa, Yobe, Zamfara, Bauchi, and Ekiti states. The national chairman of the Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure, and the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Festus Keyamo, are also present in court. The five-member panel of justices arrives and goes right into delivering judgment in that petition. In the petition of the Allied People's Movement, APM, chairman of the panel, Justice Haruna Asamani, who read the judgment, held that the issue of membership and qualification of the APC candidates raised by the APM in its petition are pre-election matters that could only be determined by the Federal High Court. The court also upheld the preliminary objections of the respondents who challenged the competence of the suit. Justice Samani notes that since the petition centered on the qualification of President Tinubu to contest the presidential election, the APM ought to have gone to court within 14 days after Mr. Tinubu was nominated by the All Progressives Congress, APC. He also held that since the course of action bordered on a pre-election matter, the APM lacked the local standi to challenge President Tinubu's nomination, as the Supreme Court had earlier decided that a political party does not have the right to challenge a nomination that was made by another political party. Next, the panel makes a pronunciation on the petition of the Labour Party. The court held that the petitioners made generic allegations without giving specifics of allegations of complaints of particular polling units where election did not take place. Neither did they specify particulars of polling units where there were alleged complaints of irregularities. The court also stated that the petitioner failed to establish that INEC deliberately refused to promptly upload polling unit results to IREV in order to manipulate the result in favor of President Tinubu on the 25% requirement. The court held that there is no special status attached to the FCT, as it is equal to every other state in Nigeria. On the president's alleged drug trafficking conviction and the forfeiture of $460,000 in the US, the court held that the petitioners failed to show evidence that President Tinubu was ever convicted, and the court cited an exhibit tendered by President Tinubu's legal team, a letter written by the U.S. Embassy stating that had no criminal record in the U.S. Going by the provisions of Section 137 of the Constitution, the court held that President Tinubu is therefore not disqualified, and the issue is resolved against the petitioner. On the issue of substantial non-compliance with the provisions of the law, especially with regards to non-transmission of result sheets to IREV, the court held that there is no law that says INEC must mandatorily transfer or transmit the result of the election from the polling units electronically. The court states that the law simply empowers INEC to decide the means of collation of results and transmission of same.
This issue of non-compliance is directly standing on the first ground of this petition. Thus, by paragraph 16A of the petitioner stated that the election of the second respondent is invalid by reason of non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. By Section 1341B of the Electoral, non-compliance with the Act is a ground for questioning or challenging an election. Primarily, the law is well settled that the results declared by ANEC first respondent in an election enjoy a presumption of legality. In other words, they are prima facie correct. Section 168 of the Evidence Act 2011, recently applied by the Supreme Court in Atuma and ANEC and APC.
The last petition to be decided is that of the PDP and its presidential candidate. After a review of the evidence and documents tendered, the court struck out the evidence of some of Mr. Atiku's witnesses on the grounds that their witness statements on oath were not filed along with his petition. The court also expunged 37 exhibits tendered by the witnesses from the court records. On the inability of the election officers to transmit, of the 27 witnesses called by the petitioner, 10 were polling unit agents who testified as to how the elections were conducted in their different polling units.
The petitioners did not call any of their agents at the polling units. The said agents at the polling units were the ones who were meant to sign and collect duplicates of results in Form EC8A. The few agents called were state and national collation agents. Largely, their testimonies were hearsay. Let us now examine their evidence before the court.
All 10 of the witnesses testified that the voting went well and was peaceful in their different polling units. However, they all said they could not upload results electronically to the INEC IREV, so they entered the results manually and took same to the ward and the State Collation Center. The witnesses were emphatic that voting went well. Part agents signed the results, but the only difficulty was in uploading the result electronically. Attention will now shift to the Supreme Court, where parties dissatisfied with this judgment can go and appeal. That appeal is to be decided within 60 days from this judgment.
And reacting to the verdict in faraway India, President Bola Tinubu and his entourage, who have been following the court proceedings, but don't hide their joy in the outcome of the case. As they sing in excitement, President Tinubu assured Nigerians of his renewed focus on delivering his vision of a unified, peaceful, and prosperous nation.
On your mandate, we shall stand. We shall stand. On your mandate, we shall stand. On your mandate, on your mandate, on your mandate, we shall stand.
Almighty, it's been a very, very strong and emotional journey for all of us. Struggling for democracy, truth, and justice for all. Today, we give kudos to the judiciary for their indefeasible commitment to rule of law and to humanity. Thank God Almighty for guiding us this far and protecting us. With your support, joys, and adulation, the theme for Nigeria is for us to pull Nigeria up and be proud of a country that's the only country that we have. 1 out of 4 black race is in Nigeria. Well-educated, dynamic, collaborative, and forward-looking people. Hard-working, no doubt. We have no reasons to be poor. Don't look back. Look forward. Let's pull the country forward. And with your help, my friend, my colleagues, and all of you, I promise to do more.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 election, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, has rejected the verdict of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which affirmed the election of President Bola Tinubu. Speaking to journalists during a press conference at the party's headquarters in Abuja, Mr. Abubakar says although he respects the verdict, he will proceed to the Supreme Court.
I take great pains to tell you that the decision of the Court of First Instance on this matter utterly fails far short of expectation. I am therefore here to tell you that though the judgment of the court yesterday is respected, it is a judgment that I refuse to accept. I refuse to accept the judgment because I believe that it is bereft of substantial justice. However, the disappointment in the verdict of the court can never destroy my confidence in the judiciary. Consequently, I have asked my lawyers to activate my constitutionally guaranteed rights of appeal to the higher court, which in the instance is the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Whether I prevail in this quest or not, the record of my effort in ensuring an order of credible elections in Nigeria shall remain for the future generations to emulate. Our gains in ensuring transparent elections through the deployment of technology was heavily compromised by INEC in the way it managed the last presidential elections. And I'm afraid that the judgment of the court as rendered by the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal yesterday failed to restore confidence in our dreams of free and fair elections devoid of human manipulations.
And just like his PDP counterpart, the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, has also rejected the judgment of the Election Petition Court, describing it as not conterminous with justice. Mr. Obi, who spoke at a press conference in Onitsha, Anambra State, acknowledged the court's adherence to statutory timeframes and expressed respect for the court's views and ruling, but disagreed with the judgment's rationale and final conclusions. He then announced his intention to immediately challenge the judgment at the Supreme Court.
It is my intention as the presidential candidate and intention of Labour Party to challenge this judgment by way of appeal immediately as allowed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The PEPC has rendered its judgment, but that esteemed body is not the final arbiter. The responsibility now falls on the Supreme Court. I do know that the judgment is not conterminous with justice. I implore Nigerians to remain focused, steadfast, and peaceful, and to abide by the rule of law and understand this matter has not reached its logical conclusion. Our legal team has already received our firm instruction to file an appeal against the decision. I shall not relent in quest for justice, not necessarily for myself, but for indeed for our teeming supporters all over Nigeria, whose mandate to us at the post was regrettably truncated by INEC. The strength and value of our democracy reside on solid national institutions and our confidence in them. Electoral litigations will almost be unnecessary and non-existent if the Independent National Electoral Commission discharges its statutory functions creditably, transparently, and with discernible fairness.
The Nigeria Labour Congress made good on its vow to embark on a two-day nationwide warning strike to compel the federal government to address demands include the immediate reversal of the recent hike in petrol price, a payment of 8-month salaries of university lecturers, and a fixing of refineries. The directive from the leadership of the NLC was that workers sit at home for 2 days. However, the Federal Secretariat in Abuja did not shut its gates completely for few workers who showed up for work.
The Federal Secretariat in Abuja is usually a beehive of activities, with civil servants passing through this gate every working day. However, the turnout of workers on Tuesday is very minimal as members of the Nigerian Labour Congress begin their warning strike. This entrance to the Federal Ministry of Education was shut for about 5 minutes, denying access for some workers who resumed for duty. However, it was opened after a few moments. The banks are also not exempted as their gates are shut. However, the banks are engaging the organized labor.
I'm aware that the Institute was engaging the Nubife and Asbife to ensure that they have a meeting of the mind and be patient with government and go ahead and see how things can be controlled properly.
The warning strike did not stop activities at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. However, activities in Kaduna and Yobe states are partially brought to a halt.
I have just came back from monitoring and enforcement, and our team are still out carrying out monitoring to ensure compliance. We have heeded to the call of the National Secretariat, and we are in total compliance with the instruction, and we are on strike.
After this 2 days warning strike, if at all government fail to comply, definitely sure we can go for the indefinite strike nationwide.
In Taraba State, workers also stayed off their duty posts as NLC officials enforced the sit-at-home order.
If I go around all the ministries, if I see any office that is open, I will close it and go.
Nevertheless, the NLC believes the first day of the industrial action was a success.
If you watch, our attitude to this is clear, and we're assessing it. We're happy that without enforcement, people are showing that they are not happy with what's going on, which is very important. Any worker that earns normal living is finding it difficult to come to work.
The ongoing warning strike is expected to end on Wednesday, September the 6th, after which the NLC say they will continue with an indefinite strike if the federal government refuses to address their demands.
And a warning strike was also observed in other southern states with workers lamented the economic situation, while some said they didn't receive adequate information about the industrial action. This next report takes a look at the compliance level in the southern states.
The Nigeria Labour Congress has made good its threats to embark on a 2-day warning strike on Tuesday and Wednesday to draw the government's attention to the economic hardships being experienced by Nigerians following the removal of fuel subsidy. In compliance with the strike directive, the NLC in Benin City, the Edo State capital, barred entry into the State High Court, where judgment in 2 petitions in the national and state assembly elections were scheduled to be delivered. That matter has now been adjourned till Thursday, September the 7th, 2023.
Yeah, we are out of, because of the 2 days warning strike. And you can see that the strike has commenced. The secretariat is shut, the government's apparatus will shut everywhere down, including some of the fuel station and some of the bank. So the 2-day strike, warning strike, must go on.
Staying in the South-South, the Nigeria Labour Congress in Cross River State toured various ministries in Calabar, the state capital, to ensure they are locked. Chairman of the state chapter of the union, Gregory Olayi, explains that the strike is to express labour's grievances on the economic effects of the subsidy removal.
We are out this morning to see how effective we are in mobilizing for the warning strike. I think from what you have gathered here, or what you have seen on ground, we have succeeded in asking our members to stay at home. There is nobody in any of the offices we've been to. We are standing right in front of the Office of Head of Service, Cross River State, and there is nobody in the office.
Meanwhile, civil servants in Rivers State complied partially with the two-day warning strike declared by the Nigeria Labour Congress. Some of the few workers seen at the Secretariat told Channels Television that the partial compliance is as a result of inadequate information about the strike. Nevertheless, they lament the hardship occasioned by the removal of petrol subsidy and that the strike is long overdue.
If this strike will bring joy in Nigeria, in Rivers State, I am in support. We can't buy rice. Garri, no way. Pepper, no way. If you talk of yam, one tuber of yam, they will tell you 5,000. Oh my God. We don't know where we are going now.
Meanwhile, the two-day warning strike called by the NLC witnessed a relatively low compliance rate in Imo State in southeast Nigeria, as workers in the public and private sectors were seen at their offices, and indigents condemned the NLC's decision to call a strike.
Take for the poor masses, think for the poor Nigerians. Everybody is suffering. So they should work with the government. Look at the government program that favor the masses. They should partner with them and make sure things are okay for them. Let them not embark on this strike because it is not favorable for all of us.
The strike action was called in spite of ongoing talks between the federal government and organized labor on the FG palliatives, which are measures to cushion the impact of the removal of subsidy on petrol. Measures labor says have failed to yield the desired results.
The leadership of the Senate that are here with us.
And moving away from that, now history has been made in Lagos, and indeed Nigeria as a whole, as the first metro rail transport has begun commercial operation in the state. First phase of the rail line extends from the Marina area of the state to Mile 2, with 5 stations located in Marina, National Theatre, Igomu, Alaba, and relay on the corridor towards the border with Benin Republic.
The iconic Marina station is the takeoff point. Invited guests and others who have indicated interest in joining the governor on this maiden commercial ride are here. The governor arrives at the terminal of the Blue Line, runs through the ground rules for passengers who will be using the service. The Cowrie card, an automated fare collection system already in use in Lagos, is every passenger's access to the train. And a trip from Marina to Mile 2 costs less than 500 naira because the fare is subsidized. The inaugural ride is scheduled for 9 a.m. The governor gets on board and the train is en route to Mile 2 on schedule. It's a packed train on this inaugural ride with the governor on board. This metro line is expected to convey 250,000 Lagosians on a daily basis, and that's the first phase of the Blue Line. When the project is completed, 500,000 Lagosians will be moving from Marina to Okokomaiko on a daily basis. The third rail, the yellow one, will power the train when it becomes fully operational. The visibly excited governor speaks about how the train service will run.
I'm not only excited, everybody on this train is excited, and this is promise made, promise kept. We're starting with the peak hours, movement, and I'm told we'll have a small lay and we'll go on the peak hour again. I think from Lamata's time schedule, they're starting from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock, right? And they will, because it's off peak, they'll wait again till 4 o'clock in the evening and they'll run the operations again till 7 or 8 o'clock. So for them to be able to gather traffic.
He speaks on the second phase of the Blue Line and the completion timeline for the Red Line.
The Red Line is going to be completed before the end of this year, by the grace of God. Well, about 95, 96% in all of. So, for the Red Line, we have over bridges. We have So we're going to start commissioning the bridges maybe by the end of this month, so that passengers and vehicles can start moving on those bridges from, Ikeja along to Yaba Bridge, to Ebute Metta Bridge, to Mushin Bridge, and all of them. So we're going to open the bridges for vehicles to start moving on top, so that will begin the signalization that red line is coming up. Right, we're almost completing the retrofitting of the trains, and they have also started recruitment of train operators, of train managers, and all of that. Then we will start the unveiling of the various stations themselves.
Are you serious?
The journey is less than 30 minutes to and fro, smooth.
In fact, it's everything we've been yearning for, asking for. This will bring serious relief to Lagosians when it comes to commuting from one point to another point. The governor of Lagos State, Jide Sanwo-Olu, has done fantastically well for putting this project together and making it come to fruition.
The 5 stations spanning 13 kilometers is the first phase of the 27 kilometers blue line, expected to be propelled by electricity passing through the tracks. The state government says the advocacy to get the public properly informed about the danger of trespassing must continue. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
And to end our news round, Rwandan police have arrested a 34-year-old suspected serial killer who is alleged to have murdered and buried more than 10 bodies in his kitchen. Police found out about the murders when asked to evict him from his house in Kusikiro district in Kigali for defaulting on rent. The man confessed to luring his victims from bars, robbing and killing, and burying them in a hole he had dug up in his kitchen. And that's it on News Round for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.